Shalom, Yasharallah. This is your brother Dawud Daw from GMS Tampa Bay 07, coming at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you. I can pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions. All right, I wanted to get into this here quick lesson, which was inspired over a conversation at camp we had over the weekend about Cornelius. All right. It was a beautiful thing. We had a brother come out, and it was real beautiful. This weekend at camp was real beautiful. It was an older brother, a real older Jake. Came humbly and sincerity, learning. But this was one of the things that came up, and it was beautiful that he saw it, and how quick and easy it was that he saw it, But like the scriptures say, and the God of this world has blinded them, and the rest were blinded, So what I like to liken that to is a so-called Jedi mind trick, Here's another Jedi mind trick, You ask all these so-called white people over here, these Edomites, all right, they'd be like, oh, this is my land. My forefathers fought for this. They died for this. We fought for this land, They'll all claim that, They all claim that this is their land because their forefathers, their forefathers handed it down to them, But you ask those same Edomites, all right, if their foreparents ever had slaves. No, it wasn't us. I'm like, wait a minute. So what time period did you people come over here? And whatever happened to any of the slave owners? Because apparently you can't find not one Edomite who would say that they foreparents was a part of being a slave owner or anything like that, No, none of them. They would all tell you that they foreparents fought for this. I'm like, well, who the fuck was you fighting? If y'all didn't fight and kill the Native Americans, who was y'all fighting for this land? Because how history goes, that's what it was. So that's a Jedi mind trick. That's one of them. They will never admit to that. But they'll be the ones say, oh, their forefathers fought. But they can't tell you who they fought for this land, Or they say they fought the Europeans. Like, no, you were the Europeans, all right? And when the so-called Americans fought the Europeans, this wasn't the Europeans' land to be fighting over anyway, all right? But nevertheless, the other Jedi mind trick is this, this basically can close up the whole Cornelius deal right here and there, Cornelius. All right, we're not even going to talk about Cornelius, okay? Because like I said, this is Jedi mind trick when you put in spiritual names, not spiritual, but biblical names and stuff like that, all right? It's like a Gentile. You have a goddamn, a Chinese couple, all right, having kids, a whole dynasty, a whole lineage of Chinese people having babies over in China. They're Chinese, right? Now, one of them decided to come over here, a family decided to come over here and have babies over here, all right? They're still Chinese, right? Somewhere down the line, we will call them Americanized. Some male jakes are like, oh, we like non-Americanized women, all right? Why would you say that? You want women who don't have these American customs. They don't act like these people over here in America, all right? So it's simple to see. You'd be like, okay, so Chinese people have babies over in China. Them having babies in China don't make them Chinese. They can have babies over here. We would still call them Chinese, okay? But, they'd be like, oh, they're Americanized over here, all right? But nevertheless, if I was or we'll still stick with the Chinese. We're not even going to get onto the names of the tribes in the Bible. But if you was a Chinese person, right, we can all agree that this motherfucker's Chinese, okay? You Chinese. Now, this Chinese person decided to get a job at the police department, all right? And let's say he worked for NYPD, all right? Now, because he's a New York Police Department or a police officer, New York police officer, does that not make him Chinese no more? He's still a Chinese police officer. Even if he is an American at this point in time by citizenship, okay, still Chinese, never going to change him being Chinese, whether or not he want to move to America, have babies over here for 100 years, then move to Alaska for 100 years, then move to Mexico for 100 years, and have babies all over the fucking planet Earth, he's still Chinese, all right? Nothing going to ever change that, all right? So, it's simple when you break it down like that to some people. It's like, okay, if a Chinese person and they family have babies over in Africa, they're not Africans. They could be Africans by so-called citizenship. That's they're a citizen of a place in Africa. Let's say Kenyans, from Kenya, but they're not like Africans. They're not Hamites. They still see. That's how people get lost using those types of names. They're not Africans. They're still Chinese people. All right. Nobody would ever disagree when you say it like that. But when you change out, all right. So if a Moabite moved to the land of Ham and had babies with other Moabites, is that baby a Hamite or a Moabite? They'd be like, well, it might be a Hamite. But nevertheless, that's just how you solve the Cornelius deal. But nevertheless, we're going to get it through the scriptures, all right? This is the book of Acts, chapter 10, verse 1. there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. First of all, how many Edomites you know with a goddamn name named Cornelius or anything like that? Like, you know, closely representing anything like that, okay? He ain't gonna have no Edomites like that. Nevertheless, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion, okay? So, first stumbling block, a centurion, that's basically a job that you over, basically, I believe it was either 7,000 or 10,000 men, or no. I think centurion is 100 men. Yeah, I think centurion means like 100. But nevertheless, he's like a captain over a group of people, okay? But people would be like, a centurion, that's a title in the Roman, like the Roman shit, right? So you would be like, okay, he a Roman because he's a centurion, all right? Then furthermore, it says a centurion of the band called the Italian band. Okay, so you'd be like, okay, well, this guy is either a Roman or an Italian. Either way, he an Edomite, right? So it says a devout man. Okay, first of all, I mean, we could go into that, but the fucking wicked gonna always be wicked, all right? If you're a heathen, if you're not an Israelite, you can't be a devout man, all right? So the devout man, one that feared Yahweh. The Most High said, only you have I known of all the families of the earth. Okay, only you, Jacob, only Israel. So none of these other nations is going to even really acknowledge the Most High like that, you know? They got their own little weak-ass gods and stuff like that. The Most High only dealing with us, all right? So a devout man, one that feared Yahweh with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to Yahweh always. So if he's a devout man, not a wicked, vain man, okay, so like the scriptures say, basically, roughly paraphrasing, the nations or the mountains or the hills, basically it's all the same thing, you know. Basically they hoped in vain. Basically they hoped in vain for salvation. All right, this is something they hope for in vanity. The Most High said, look, they all hoping to get saved, but that's vain anyway. I don't give a fuck about them, right? And that's scriptural. You can read that in scripture. They counted as spittle. Okay, in fact, they counted less than nothing. Okay, nothing is more higher up than these other nations. All right, put that in your pipe and smoke it. But nevertheless, it says, a devout man, one that feared Yahweh with all his house, was gave alms to the people and prayed to Yahweh always. All right. Now I'm gonna jump down right here to where they start to eating that, you know, because this is another little stumbling block saying you can eat pork. It says, and there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, eat and kill, because they talking about eating basically with Cornelius, all right? But Peter said, no, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Okay, and the voice spake unto him again the second time, will Yahweh have cleansed that call not thou common. Okay, so people will be like, well, the laws is done away with, you can eat pork now. All right, that's not what it's talking about. They're not even really talking about, this is a vision that he's seeing. Okay, so like when they say, like in Daniel, this is the vision you saw and this is the interpretation thereof. Because the vision that you saw isn't exactly what it means verbatim. If you had a vision of a goddamn trash can, it's not saying, look, what I'm trying to show you is a trash can. Now, the trash can might mean something. It might mean that you throwing away your riches, you know? Something like that. It's symbolic, you know? It says, let me see. They give you the breakdown. Right here, it says, verse 19, while Peter thought on the vision, so he thought on the vision that he was seeing, which was eating unclean foods, more or less, all these beasts that, you know, unclean food, more or less to say. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent thee. So the Most High has already given them the clue, don't doubt, because when you was talking about the food, this is what the vision is basically going to be right here, all right? It says, Peter went down, hang on. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius and said, behold, I am he whom ye seeketh. What is the cause wherefore ye come? wherefore ye are come. So the food or the unclean food was representing these so-called unclean people. Okay, now we're going to find out why they was unclean, though. They're not heathen, all right? It says, then they said Cornelius, the centurion, a just man, letting you know he's not a heathen, one that feareth Yahweh, and of good report among all nations of the Jews, was warned from Yahweh by a holy angel to send forth thee unto his house to hear words of thee. Okay, so let me see. Right here, I will start 27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together, and he said unto them, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. Okay? So, again, the stumbling block is they would think that this guy's from, like, he's a non-Israelite, all right? But more or less, like what we'll get into, you know, it's basically like us before we woke up, all right? Before we woke up, all right? Before we woke up to this truth to who we were, that we were Israelites, we were still Israelites. Didn't change anything. We just didn't know we was Israelites. We weren't keeping the Israelite customs. We was eating pork, getting lineups, and praying to Jesus, shit like that, you know? Those weren't our customs. So therefore, we wasn't doing what an Israelite does. All right? So it's like you saying, well, this here is a fish. And you describe what a fish does. Well, a fish normally all the time lives in the water, and he'd be swimming around in the water, all right? But then, now, you showing me this here fish, and the fish is like, let's say, flying in the air like a goddamn bird, you know, for a long-ass time. He just fly around and be like, well, something ain't right about this. The fish isn't in its right state of being what it's supposed to be. It's not, you know, or you see a fish flopping around outside the water. Be like, now, I know that they told me fish is supposed to be in the water, and fish swim around. Why do I see this fish over here on the ground? See, now the fish on the ground flopping around doesn't change that it's a fish. It's just a fish out of its where it need to be at. It need to be in the water. That's its habitation. It fit in the water. That's where it can be comfortable and be itself and keep all the laws that it's supposed to keep, breathing in the water with it, the way its body is built. You know, when you bring a fish out of the water, it can't breathe out the water. You know, it ain't built for that. All right. But nevertheless, a fish in the water or a fish out the water or a fish that's flying in the air is still a fish. Whether it's you deep frying the fish, you eating the fish on your plate, or you doing whatever you're doing with the fish, you fishing with it with bait, it's still a fish. All right? It says, and he said unto them, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But Yahweh hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Going back up to the food, that was the breakdown of the vision of the food. Peter was like, nah, I don't want to eat this. This is unclean. And the Most High said, look, what I've cleansed, don't call unclean, you know. So basically, this, how do I want to put this? This Israelite who hadn't quite woken up to the fact that not really that, but he needed to get more understanding, more or less to say, all right? Just like some jakes, you know, you might be on the highways and the byways, and some jakes might be walking by, yeah, I heard something about the Israelites, you know. But now this jake that you see, he got a line up, you know, he don't got no beard on his face, and he eating pork, right? But he just found out he was an Israelite yesterday, so he don't quite know about all this yet, you know. But nevertheless, we would look at it like, well, that's kind of unclean. You shouldn't be doing that. But the Most High is saying, look, don't call that what I've cleansed, you know, don't call that unclean. Because, see, I done woke him up. Now, you got to finish building him up, you know. You got to finish doing all this and that. None of us is going to wake up into this, come into this thing perfect, all right? If that was the case, we wouldn't need salvation. This is a building thing. We always getting built up, you know. And so what you seen was basically Cornelius from the beginning half, all right, being, really it's an analogy, not an analogy, but, you know, the things written aforetime is written for our learning and understanding, all right? So use that as the example today. This is a Roman centurion, all right, who basically is our enemy at the point in time, like the Israelites was in captivity under the Romans, all right, and now the police force would have been the Roman centurions. So these would have been the people that would have been persecuting the Jews, just coming down on them, all right? Just like here today in America. We'll just change it all up, all right? the Israelites is getting pushed up on by the damn police and Project Megiddo, the King Alpha planets, things like that, all right? So the government is coming down on us, right? However, if there is an actual Israelite, a Jake, you know, the Israelite, that happens to have a job in that system, all right? And we know we're getting persecuted. You know how they have Black Lives Matter. We're getting shot down by the police and stuff. Now, however be it, a so-called police officer walked by the camp, right? And we already got in our mind how the police be dealing with us, treating us, and we know that that's our enemy. But the Most High said, look, don't call that what I have cleansed unclean. Yeah, that's like that uniform job title and all that office is of the enemy. However, my people is in there, and this guy is an upright, devout man, and his heart is clean and pure. He, you know, this more than like this is gonna be one of my elect. You gotta fish him up out of all of that stuff, all right? Just like us, we was in our bullshit and our folly beforehand, all right? So you gotta fish him up out of all that stuff. Like, yo, you know, all of us has the same ass story, you know. Before any of us came into this truth, we had a lot of things that old man had to die off first, all right? But really, in the sense of, you don't want to be so-called over-righteous and be looking around like, you know, we only want to fish in people who's walking up, who know they Israelites, wearing fringes, and 100% in order, and keep all the law, statutes, commandments. Those are the only people we want to deal with. Like, no, you got to go out to the children of Israel and show them their transgressions. They already fucked up. It's your job to build them back up. You raising up this here nation, all right? Yeah, they unclean right now. They defile right the fuck now, you know. For a prime example, there's some brothers in our camp right now with tattoos on. What are we going to do, call them wicked? Nah, they got these tattoos before they came into the truth. But we can't call them unclean because they got tattoos. We know you're not supposed to have tattoos. They didn't know they weren't supposed to have tattoos before they before they came into this truth. All right? But we can't call them unclean. The Most High cleansed them and made them clean. All right? Same with any of us in our filthiness. All right? Here, verse 34, then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that Yahweh is no respecter of person. Okay? But in every nation, he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted of him. All right? And that ain't talking about of every nation. Saying in every nation, because we were scattered in every nation. Grab a couple more precepts just to hone in on that point about being a citizen and having all these other things on you. It's not changing your DNA of who you are. Your job ain't going to change who you are, and where you live ain't going to change who you are. A Chinese person is still Chinese whether they live in Mexico, Africa, North Korea, Japan. A Chinese person is still Chinese even if he's living in Japan. All right? This is Acts 21 and 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said to the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, can thou speak is Greek? All right. So first of all, Paul was talking to this, like, we'll say it again, like a police or an official, like a authority figure, right? The Romans. And it says, may I speak with thee? And he says, who said, can thou speak is Greek? So he's asking him, basically, how you know how to speak my language, you know? And he says, art thou not that Egyptian? Okay, so, you know, probably based off the same skin color. Yeah, obviously, it's the same. It's proven the color right here for one, because the Egyptians at that time was so-called black people, dark-skinned people, all right? And Paul here is being mistaken for an Egyptian, all right? It's somewhat easy to mistake, if you're an Edomite, a so-called white person, it's easy to mistake a so-called Negro with a so-called African because they got basically the same color skin, all right? Especially if you an Edomite, your skin is on the complete opposite of the scale, all right? It says, art thou not that Egyptian which before these days made us an uproar and leadest out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? So he asked him, can you speak Greek, first of all? And then I thought you was an Egyptian. Verse 39, but Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew. So he's an Israelite. That's what he is. He's an Israelite. Basically, I believe he's a Benjamite, but he's an Israelite, all right, of Tarshish. So I want to say, where is that? I want to say Tarshish is Spain, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Tarshish is Spain. So we'll use that in modern day term. So basically saying he's a Jew, but he's this is going to be a little fucked up, but he's a so-called Spaniard, more or less to say, like a Spaniard in Spain, right? Being that he's a citizen over there, right, of Tarshish. That's where he's from, more or less to say, right? But it don't change, again, like this goddamn Chinese person. If a Chinese person born in Spain, you can be considered a Spaniard by citizenship, but you still Chinese. If somebody walking around and you ain't got to fill out no paperwork, like that Chinese guy over there, okay? Even if he speak if he was born in Venezuela or Colombia or Mexico speaking Spanish, he only knows Spanish, only know how to speak Spanish language and eat Spanish, know only Spanish customs, right? If he was to see this motherfucker in the crowd, he would still point him out as that Chinese guy over there, because you know he's Chinese, right? And not really getting on just the skin color, because, you know, you got the confusion of faces. But when we know of somebody of Chinese lineage, that's what we're getting at. You wouldn't say he's something different because he was born in this place or that place. It says, but Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarshish, a city in Sicilia, a citizen of no mean city. I beseech thee, suffer me to speak to the people. Okay? And Paul had given him license, and when Paul had given him license, Paul stood by the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And where there was made great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue. So, you know, you done went through a whole bunch of so-called different nationalities here to the blind person. Like, okay, what is he, a Hebrew? Is he a person of Tarshish? Is he a Jew? Is he an Egyptian? Or is he a Greek? All right. So mostly everything else is like a citizenship where where you live at. You know, it's like down here we call us Floridians. All right. What's the difference between a Floridian and an American? Well, Floridians, they from Florida. They live in Florida, right? Americans, you can live in Texas. That's like a Texan, and a Floridian, and a New Yorker. You know, they all from different states. You would call them different names like that, but they all what? Americans by citizenship. You know. Grab one more precept real quick, or actually two more. This is the book of Acts. Actually, let me grab three more real quick, real fast. This is James 1:1. It says, James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So where are the 12 tribes at? They scattered abroad, all right? This is the book of Acts chapter 2. In verse 5. Now there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, all right? So these are Israelites again, devout men, again, only the Israelites, out of every nation under heaven. So that's the stumbling block. So anybody could be a Jew. We're going to skip down, but nevertheless it says they were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews. So these people are Israelites, all right? Now, jumping down to verse 9, still talking about these same people, this great multitude. It says Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and dwellers in Mesopotamia. There's a dead giveaway right there. It says dwellers of Mesopotamia. Okay? They dwell in Mesopotamia. That's just where they live at. All right? Which we just read to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. This is further reiterating that. It says Parthians, Medes, Elamites, dwellers in Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and in parts of Libya and Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our own tongues and wonderful works of Yahweh. Okay? So these people are all Israelites, but like James said, they were scattered abroad, all right? And even till today, they scattered abroad. So here you could, on a Cornelius thing, talking about the Italian band, the Roman centurion, all right? So what do you have? What do you ask yourself here? Are these Egyptians Israelites, like actual Hamites, like the actual Egyptians? Are they Israelites? Are the Romans Israelites? Are the Libyans Israelites? So if the Romans was Israelites, what was the problem with Yahweh Shah being the king of the Jews if the Romans was Jews too, What's the deal? All these people are all Israelites. They just dwelled in these different lands, all right? That's just where their so-called citizenship would be. That's just, like I said, we will call me a Floridian right now, all right? But like the elders, they're so-called like New Yorkers, all right? But we all, first of all, we all Israelites still. That don't change wherever we live. I can go move to Texas and become a Texan, you know, but I'm still an Israelite. It's not going to change wherever I live at. I can go move to China and be Chinese, you know. It's not going to change my what I am. I'm still going to be from the tribe of Judah. It's not going to ever change that, all right? Last scripture we're going to get is in the book of Revelation, chapter 7, talking about the, you know, you hear the 144,000, all right? This is the people who's going to be saved, all right? It says, Revelation 7:4, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000, all of the tribes of the children of Israel, all right? So this is 144,000, okay, that's going to be saved, all right? Now, still talking about the same subject, Revelation 7:9, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. Okay, so people, this is where these Christians think that everybody's going to be saved because of this. You know, first the Israelites first and then everybody else, all nations. Okay, it says, which no man could number, of all nations, all kindreds, all peoples and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Okay. It says, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our power, which sits upon the throne and to the Lamb, right? So this great multitude, they're all Israelites, like we were just breaking down in Acts, all right? That great multitude out of all nations, all kindreds, right? If we scattered abroad into the four corners of the earth, all right? Don't you think some of those Jews or those Israelites that was dwelling in Arabia, don't you think they were speaking Arabic? Don't you think some of those Paul was speaking Greek? You see what I'm saying? You see, come on now. You see us right now speaking different languages in the locations where we dwell at, you know? So it's not hard to see that these great multitude out of all these nations and all these tongues and kindreds of people, no matter where they say they from, like whether they be of the Italian band, a centurion, a Roman, a Russian, a Chinese, a Japanese, a Scandinavian, a German, a Polish person, you know, I'm naming all these so-called countries nowadays where there would be so-called white people at and so-called whoever else at. Our people are scattered amongst these people, so we're going to have people out of these nations, all right? And so you might see a so-called Jake. Shit, we got Jakes in the London camp, you know? They would be considered, you know, on layman's terms as Europeans, all right? And on layman's terms, well, we telling you that the Edomites is the Europeans going into slavery. So we're just speaking on, you know, surface level, the people who don't know. We say the Europeans are going to slavery. Am I talking about my brothers over there that's preaching his word that's over there? No. They Europeans too, but that's just because of that was where the slave ship dropped them off at. We take one house and scatter them all up. It's the same family. They're just in different locations, all right? Don't change who they are or don't change their family. You have 100 kids and you put them in 100 different countries, nations, and states. They still your kids. They still got the same DNA, all right? They might have different backgrounds now on, but they still your kids, the same DNA. Nothing's changing. With that, Lord willing, it was edifying, Lord willing, that you know, cleared all that Cornelius up for the last time because it was a stumbling block back then and it's still a stumbling block today. But, you know, Lord willing, that was edifying. Until next time I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, double honor to the apostles and the elders of great will, so they taught me the truth and that rule will. And salutation and much love for you. I can push in the truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions. Stay strong. Shalom.